Alright guys, we are in chapter 3, solving systems of equations. From class today, you probably remember doing this problem that is on the board right now. Negative 4x plus 3y equals 22, and y equals negative 6x. But we did not solve it with substitution today, we solved it by elimination. Well, I'm going to show you my favorite way of solving a system of equations, and it is substitution. It's a pretty easy method. The whole point of the substitution method is for you guys to learn how to solve a system where one of the equations is already solved for x or y. Okay. First example. Remember, we already did this one in class, so you already know the answer to it. So here goes. On a system of equations using substitution method, step 1, solve either of the two equations for x or y. If you will notice right here, the bottom equation is already solved for y. Step 2, place this value of x or y into the other equation for whichever variable was solved for. In other words, since y equals negative 6x, I'm about to replace that y with negative 6x. So you rewrite the equation. You're going to have negative 4x plus 3. And this time we won't write our y down because we're going to replace y with a new value, negative 6x. And watch what happens here. You get negative 4x minus 18x equals 22. And you should see some similarities here from the problem we worked in class today. When you divide both sides by negative 22, you get x equals negative 1. Now, so let me run through my steps one more time. Step 1, solve either equation for x or y. Step 2, plug this into the other equation and then do the math. You'll have a value down here. Okay, once you get that value, your last thing you're going to do is plug it into step 1. I like putting a box around step 1 because it makes it easier. So the last thing I'm going to do, instead of saying y equals negative 6x, I'm going to go y equals negative 6 times negative 1. And there's my y coordinate, just like we found in class today. All right. And your answer, once again, remember, has always got to be written as a set of ordered pairs. So there is your number, and there's our answer. Okay. I have one ready for you guys to work. So let's ease up here. And now you need to pause your computer and see if y'all can get this one to work out. Okay guys, let's see what you got here. Alright, if you'll notice, the bottom equation was already solved for x, so all I had to do, guys, was simply replace the x in the other equation with the new value for x. Okay, so the good news is, guys, it don't always have to be solved for x or y. You can solve it yourself for x or y, as I'm about to do in the next problem. But anyway, if x is equal to 8y minus 12, if you'll notice, I replaced 8y minus 12 where the x was, and then the rest of the problem, plus 12y equals 68, is the same. It's the neatest thing. Now, guys, you've got terms to combine, so here they are. You got an 8y and you got a 12y. That gives me a 20y. Bring down your minus 12, bring down your 68. Now it's just a two-step equation, guys. Add 12 to both sides. Gone. 20y equals 80 divided by 20. And y equals 4. Okay? And y'all know what to do to find the other. If you find an x, there's a y. If you find a y, there's an x. So since we found a y here, you plug it back in to the either original, but I like to plug it into the one we boxed in step 1 because it's real easy because it's already solved for the other variable x. 8 times 4 is 32, minus 12 is 20. And as always, we write our answers in the form of a coordinate. And what this means is, guys, These two lines right here cross at 20, 4. All right, good deal. I got one more example to do with you, and then I'm through. This one's going to be a short and sweet video. Occasionally something happens in the equation, and you've got to know when it happens to be parallel or perpendicular. Okay? And you've got to be able to see it. If we're doing them algebraically and you're not graphing them, then you've got to be able to see what happens. So let's do this one. I'm going to take the top equation, negative 3x plus y equals 6, and I'm going to do it by substitution. The first thing I got to do is solve it for x or y. Okay? Done. Alright, and then we're going to plug this into the other equation. But I like to put a box around my step 1. Alright? Because when I find my x or y, I'm going to come back to this. Alright? So, we solved the top equation for x or y. This time it was a y. Now we're going to replace the y with 3x plus 6. 6x minus 2y is 25. I figure some of you guys will like this method a lot better. So we're going to replace that with 3x plus 6. And then we're going to do the math. Here we go. 6x minus 6x minus 12 equals 25. Guys, occasionally this happens. 6x minus 6x is 0. You're left with a minus 12 is equal to 25. Don't panic if your variables cancel. It means something, and here's what it means. If your variables cancel, it means that these two lines were either parallel or same line. And here's how you tell the difference. Write down what you're left with after they cancel. If you're left with a false statement like this, the answer is no solution. And for future reference, if you are left with a true statement like, for example, 80 equals 80, the answer is infinite solutions. On a no solution graph, that means that these two lines were parallel. And if you don't believe me, you can check that by simply solving both of them for y. We already have one, so solve the other one for y. And what you'll see is the slopes will be the same. So on this one right here, if your variables cancel, don't panic. It's okay. It happens from time to time. If they cancel, it means the lines were either parallel or same line. This time they were parallel because we got a non-true statement in our final answer. Okay. If we get a true statement, then there'll be same line, infinite solutions. Okay. All right, guys. Good job here. We're going to have a lot of questions to clear up, and I know there'll be questions in class tomorrow, but our assignment will be due Wednesday. Okay. Due Wednesday. And it will be page 126 and 127, 18 through 60 even. I want y'all to keep in mind there's a lot of things that you have yet to see here, but that's the cool thing about the video. We got a head start. Tomorrow in class we will probably work on some of this. I need you to have me questions ready, okay? And I want to say one last thing here, okay? Steps for substitution. All right, so we'll have our assignment due Wednesday. We did substitution property, and I went ahead here, guys, and wrote you a little list of steps for substitution property. Pick an equation and solve it for x or y. It will depend on every single problem, so I can't tell you which. You decide which one is best for yourself. Okay. Step 2, plug this new value into the other equation. So solve one of them for x or y and plug that into the other equation. Step 3 is kind of iffy. You got to do the math and solve for x or y. All right. Do the math now. Solve for x or y. Step 4, find the other variable by plugging x or y into the either original problem. But I've already told you I like for you to plug it back into step 1 because it's easier. Or decide on the solution if the variables cancel. Remember, sometimes the variables cancel, and if the variables cancel, it's either going to be infinite or no solution. Okay? Great job, and I'll short and sweet video here. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Have your questions ready when you walk in the door. Have a good night.